Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we are going to talk about synapse function. What is the function of synapse? As we know that synapse is a junction, is a communicating point between the two neurons, between the neuron and the skeletal muscle fiber, between the neuron and the glandular cell. So there are two functions of the synapse mainly. Excitatory function and inhibitory function. When presynaptic neuron release excitatory neurotransmitter, this cause excitatory function. When this presynaptic neuron release inhibitory neurotransmitter, this it will cause inhibitory function. Two types. Number one, excitatory function. Excitatory function of the synapse is to transmit message from one neuron to another neuron. What is mean by excitatory function? Excitatory function mean a message from presynaptic neuron is transmitted to the postsynaptic neuron. This is the excitatory function. As we know that when I touch this area, this is the dendrite of the presynaptic neuron, then the message is go forward, and when message is reached here, then this message is transferred to this neuron. How this phenomena occur? When I zoom this area, so this phenomena is occur. This is the zooming point of this area. When I touch this area, the action potential is produced here. When the action potential is reached to the synaptic knob, this is the synaptic knob. What is synaptic knob? Synaptic knob as a button, as a swollen button like end of the axonal terminal. This is the axonal terminal. Okay. When I touch this area here, influx of sodium start. Sodium rush inward and potassium rush outward. So the action potential is go forward. When the action potential is reached to this point, sodium go inward and potassium go outward. When action potential is reached here, there is present a specific channel, calcium regulated channel. Then the calcium regulated channel is open. When the calcium go inward, there are present mini synaptic vesicle. When the calcium go inward, with the help of the calcium, the membrane of the synaptic vesicle undergoes some chemical changes, and this is the vesicle. This vesicle is attached here and release neurotransmitter. These are the excitatory neurotransmitter. Okay, when excitatory neurotransmitter is released here, suppose this is the acetylcholine. Suppose these are the acetylcholine. When acetylcholine is released here, then the acetylcholine is attached on the postsynaptic membrane with the help of a specific receptor. This is a specific receptor for the excitatory neurotransmitter, the acetylcholine. Okay, so when acetylcholine is attached here, another message is produced here. Okay, when excitatory neurotransmitter is attached here, there present some channel. This is called sodium channel. Sodium rush inward, and potassium rush outward. Here the sodium and potassium voltage regulated channel is open when neurotransmitter is attached to this receptor. Sodium start rushing inward while potassium start rushing outward. So the action potential is produced and go forward, and this is the action potential which is produced here, and this action potential go forward. So this is the excitatory function of the neuron. Another function of the neuron is the inhibitory function of the neuron. Inhibitory function have its own importance. Excitatory function have its own importance. What is the importance of the inhibitory function? When this neuron release a inhibitory neurotransmitter, suppose it release number 2 inhibitory function. Suppose this neuron release inhibitory neurotransmitter, which is the inhibitory neurotransmitter like glycine. Glycine are the inhibitory neurotransmitter. When glycine is released from here, this is its own importance. Inhibition is also a normal biological process. Then the glycine is attached to its own receptor. When glycine is attached to its own receptor, it produces hyperpolarization. When acetylcholine is attached here, there produce depolarization and the message go in forward direction. Acetylcholine produce depolarization. What is mean by depolarization? It open the sodium and potassium channel. Sodium go inward, potassium go outward. So here produce depolarization. Depolarization is produced due to the acetylcholine and the message go in forward direction. But when they are attached to glycine and the inhibitory function, here open a specific channel which is called potassium regulated channel. Here and the depolarization, potassium go outward. But when inhibitory neurotransmitter is attached here, potassium go inward instead of outward. So there produce hyperpolarization. An excitatory function and the inhibitory function, they produce hyperpolarization. When hyperpolarization is produced, message do not go in forward direction. Message only go in forward direction during the depolarization stage. But when they produce hyperpolarization, it produce no signal in the postsynaptic neuron. So there is a produce hyperpolarization due to the influx of the potassium instead of the outflux of the potassium. Okay, look at this one. What is the importance of the inhibitory neurotransmission? Suppose this message is I have already uploaded a separate lecture for this one. Suppose when I touch this area, sensory neuron bring this message to the spinal cord. Here we need to contract this muscle and to remain relax this muscle. Here we need to contract quadricep muscle and to relax the hamstring muscle. Okay, when message come here and the reflex action, the sensory neuron is divided into two parts. This part release glutamate. This is a excitatory neurotransmitter. So it excite this motor neuron, and this motor neuron when excite, it contract this area, this muscle. So we jerk. So our note, when this area when this motor neuron is excited here, another branch here, it releases glycine. Glycine is the inhibitory neurotransmitter. When glycine is produced here, there in the interneuron, hyperpolarization is produced. When hyperpolarization is produced, it gives no message to this motor neuron. So this motor neuron is excited and this motor neuron is inhibited. So the hamstring muscle remain in relaxed state while the quadricep muscle contract. So there occur the knee jerk. Knee jerk is occur. So the inhibitory function has its own importance. So this is the function of the neuro of the synapse. Excitatory function and inhibitory function is mainly controlled by the chemical synapse because here release chemical, but the electrical synapse only have excitatory function because there is no release of the chemical. When message come here, when message reach to this point, this message is transferred to another neuron. This message is transferred here by the same way. So sodium go inward, potassium go outward. Here also the sodium go inward, potassium outward, sodium go inward, potassium outward. So an electrical synapse has only one function, the excitatory function, but the chemical synapse have only two functions, excitatory function and there will always occur a excitatory function. Okay, so these are the function of the synapse.